Hello and welcome to Race 8 of the Gran Turismo Touring Car Championship, brought to you by MRC over on Facebook. Today is reverse grid of Race 7 at Le Slavre, or otherwise known as Le Mans. So I won previous race, so I'm starting last, taking my other car, the Ferrari. I have to say, it sounds absolutely fantastic around this track. That V8 scream, absolutely mega. So on the start line, revving up, and just going to do it with no traction control, just drop the clutch basically. Decent start, but the Corvette looks like it gets a better start, but it looks like we get a better start than White Shark just up ahead. Now starting to catch the front wheel drive cars. There are less TTs in race 2 because a lot of people use the TT in race 1. Staying to the outside here, trying to stay out of trouble and smuggling ourselves up around the outside there. Quite a nice little move there. We've actually gone from 10th all the way up to 5th. So that's a really good start, really happy with that. Rusty on the outside, but we've got the inside here, so we now take the lead. Breaking down, and it looks like there's a bit of bumping ahead. I bump into Rick, then I get rear-ended, and then I hit Rick again. So all that work undone, down to 9th, although White Shark spinning out there. What we'll have to do, have a little quick replay and see what actually happened there. So White Shark, a couple of positions behind us there, coming into the S's here. You can see me get bumped and pushed to the outside there. He's coming through, he gets all over the curb and actually loses the rear end. Luckily ghosts before he hits Busby Boy in the LGTT, but that's going to drop him back down. So looking to what we got here, we've got Molly first, Gold 45 second, Angus third, 4th Rusty, 5th Rick in the F-Type, 6th Jay in the Rizzler TT, 7th Busby Boy in the Audi, myself 8th, and Big Wall 9th in the Cayman, and then White Shark 10th. So it's all going to kick off on the first lap or so. There's a lot of slipstreaming going on here, and as you can see, it's quite busy up ahead. So 1st to 5th split by less than maybe a second or so. And you can really see slipstream really starts to work. So up here, Molly leading out that first chicane, and getting slipstreamed and passed by Goal 45, and now we're actually four wide going down to the second chicane. Looks like people grabbed their senses and gone only 2 wide into the second chicane, braking hard. Molly looks like he's holding off Angus just a bit there. There was a bit of a nudge there, and Angus loses the rear end of the M4, and now Molly has Rick in the F-Type right behind him. It looks like the F-Type was really fast around Le Mans here. It seems to have good straight line speed, good power out the corners, and it looked like it was the kind of car that you'd need a good slipstream to get past. Rusty picking it up in 4th, now looking to the inside of Molly. Molly was leading further down the main straight here, and it's now all the way down to 3rd. Molly trying to get, look at it, but actually backed out, and Angus popped down the inside as Gold 45 makes a mistake, loses the lead there, was all the way up in the lead there, but made a mistake at the end of the Mulsanne straight and drops way back down. So we're on board still with Rusty, looking at the back of Angus, going to the outside. Looks like the Corvette has a good initial speed, but then starts to lose out down straights. Looking now to the inside of Angus, but he's just not having enough power there. Maybe Angus getting a bit of a slipstream with the car just ahead. Down, and it actually gets bumped from behind. Jay actually bumps into the back of Rusty, and that actually fires Angus off into the gravel trap. So let's have a look. Yeah, I think maybe a bit too late, a bit too keen there by Jay, and that's really pushed Angus right out, and that's going to lose him a bucket load of time. It's a proper shame there. And in fact, in the background also, Busby Boy off in the LG Lamborghini Huracan as well. Maybe Jay needs to stem his aggression going down into those kind of corners there, because it definitely affected Angus quite a lot. So back looking at the lead battle, we've still got 5 cars within maybe a second or a second and a half. Molly looking to the inside of Rick there. There was contact there. It looks like Molly's maybe got the better car for the Porsche curbs than the straight line speed of the F-Type, and Rick's doing really well here, because anytime you're out ahead, you're really punching a hole through the air for everybody behind. So you either need to play the slipstream game or get out and get ahead and get a good cushion. Molly coming back through the chicanes at the last 4 chicanes, I believe they are, and the end of the Le Mans track. So the rankings got Rick first, Molly second, Jay in the Rizzler TT third, fourth is Rusty, and then there's a little bit of a gap going back to the guys just behind it. It looks like Rusty's serving a penalty there, so his car's ghosting out there. Looks like he's getting rid of a bit of penalty. So rejoining the action, you can see here now, because Rusty's dropped off, we've got a three-way battle for the lead, and we're 3 wide down the Mulsanne straight. Onto the brakes, and it looks like Rick still holds on. Molly second, Jay third. Coming off that chicane, who's going to have the better top speed? So it looks like Molly's going to have a good slipstream down here. Jay's also going to have a slipstream, but that might nullify his effect of trying to catch. Looks like the McLaren's not so fast in a straight line though, not really gaining. It looks like Jay is gaining on the McLaren down the start finish straight. I mean the Mulsanne straight. Down into the second chicane. Is there going to be any movers? Looks like slowly Molly started to catch that slipstream. Looks to the inside and actually gets the move done. That's a good move down hard on the brakes. Molly back up to first in the McLaren, and now Rick down to second, and he's got Jay right behind him. But look at that F-type already well into the slipstream of the McLaren. Pulling alongside, is he? He's going to look to the inside now, maybe to the outside. He's all over the rear of that McLaren. Look at that power though, coming over the hill, and it's already taken the lead from the McLaren down the Mulsanne straight, down into the tight, I believe it's Arnage at the end here. And Rick is back in the lead as Molly runs wide, gets a bit on the gravel. That's going to hurt his progress off the corner. This is a long straight, and you can see Rick already passed Molly there. Definitely with these long straights of the Le Mans track, you need to have good exits, because it's just a penalty that you're going to carry for what's almost a kilometre down these 4 long straights. I suppose it's 5 if you count the one after the tight corner coming up here. So it looks like Molly's tried to come back at Jay, but it looks like Jay, a late move there, and it's actually cut across Molly. He's lost control, got on the dirty side of the track. Let's see a quick replay. So Molly getting the slipstream on the TT, he's coming, moves alongside, and Jay needs to leave a bit more space there. Maybe being a bit too aggressive at this race here this week, Jay, because cut right across the front of Molly there and gave the McLaren driver nowhere to go. He does rejoin and actually happens to hit myself. Maybe it would have been better if he stayed more to the entry of the track when he rejoined. So now we've got Rick with a nice lead over Jay and a nice lead over Rusty. Molly dropping back in fourth. Gold 45 actually getting past myself, although I do hold on going around the outside into the Porsche curves. That was kind of crucial there. White Shark now up in 7th, making good progress through the field as Angus tries to make up for that first lap incident. Busby Boy though dropping all the way back down to 9th, and it looks like Big Wall having some mechanical issues again in the Cayman GT4. So looking back up through the field, Gold 45 trying to hold off White Shark in the Hurricane, coming into the Ford chicane. And it looks like Gold 45 goes a little bit wide, but goes out because of maybe an impending penalty, and that actually gives the opportunity for White Shark to get through. Yeah, he's serving a penalty on the side there. Looks like also Angus serving a penalty down the start-finish straight. So Rick at the front with Jay right behind him. It's good showing from both Rick and Jay here, going through the Dunlop chicane, I believe it is. And then as we filter back through the field, we can see there are some other battles going on here and there. It looks like Molly's timing is a little bit glitched there. It's showing up as 10th. I believe that is actually 5th though. So GTA driver, or Rusty as he's known, needs to try and catch that gap up to the first 2 so he can try and stay in the slipstream. Down to the first chicane, it looks like Jay's in the slipstream, but you can see how fast that F-type is, because it just keeps on pulling, even with the slipstream. The TT isn't alongside it for a good long stretch down the straight. Down on the brakes into the first corner. Rick holding on, keeping a nice good line there. Jay trying to get on the power as soon as possible, running a little bit wide there, but just about keeping it in. Rusty trying to keep up with these guys just ahead, and myself down in 4th. At this point for me, I was getting struggled by getting silly little penalties for what didn't look like I was extending at all and getting like half a second here, half a second there, and that was really holding up my progress through the field. Looks like Jay also has a penalty, serving it down the Mulsanne straight there, so he was right on Rick's bumper, but now he was in the slipstream, he backed off, served a bit of the penalty. Now that will help Rusty just behind, because it looks like Rusty's just within slipstream range. If he can stick within that, he can start getting a toe along the long straights here to the south. Looking further back, we've got Gold 45, looking at Angus coming down the start field, I keep on saying that, Mulsanne straight, and he does actually manage to get past the BMW M4 of Angus. Angus gets maybe a better exit though. Yes, he's definitely getting a better exit. Gold 45 cuts across, but looks like Angus is alongside, although he's going to be on the outside for the next corners. It looks like that TT is fast in a straight line though. Angus now cuts back to the inside. Is he going to have the braking performance coming down into the tight right hand corner? Looks like he doesn't have the power though, so he has to jump back into the slipstream. Braking late. Oh, it looks like there was contact. Angus actually ends up on the gravel. Doesn't affect Gold 45 too much, but it's definitely affected Angus there. So looking back to the front of the field, we've got Rick, then followed by Jay, then followed by Rusty in third. Myself up into fourth. Fifth, we've got Moley. Sixth is White Shark, that timing glitch there. Seventh is Gold 45. Eighth is Angus in the M4, and Busby Boy dropping back. But it looks like Big Wall's started to get his mechanical gremlins sorted out, and he's now starting to catch Busby Boy in the Hurricane. So at the moment the closest battle is White Shark making his way back through after that issue on the first lap, and it's actually right on the back of Moley for fifth. I know this says 10th of Buzz's car, but it'll sort itself out, trust me. Going through the Porsche curves, it looks like the McLaren is just about holding off the Hurricane. Yeah, he's managed to open a little bit of a gap, but it does definitely looks like White Shark is wanting to make this pass past the McLaren anytime soon. Going into the final set of chicanes, nice and flat there from the Hurricane, taking just enough curb. It looks like that was the section where the McLaren was strong. It looks like he's opened a bit of a gap, although it looks like he's serving a bit of a penalty, and that hands fifth to White Shark. So Moley needs to get back on it and see if he can catch up with these guys, because he's had a good time. So instant replay here, let's see what's happened. Oh, this is Rusty getting past Jay. Jay running wide on the exit of the Porsche curbs, and you can see how much time he loses through that. Tries to go defensive, but Rusty got too much speed, and Jay decides to start serving his penalty right there and then. Rusty now up to second. So the standings how it sits right now. Rick first, Rusty second. Third is Jay in the Rizzler TT, with fourth myself not far behind this battle. Fifth, White Shark catching us all up as we speak, and sixth, Moley after serving that penalty. Seventh is Gold 45, definitely still in the hunt. Eighth, we've got Angus in the BMW M4 sponsored by Hooters. And ninth, we've got a way back, we've got Busby Boy, but we can see Big Wall definitely catching up, so he can definitely still make a few positions. So we'll go on board with myself. Going to see a bit of a mistake, so we're coming down to the second chicane. You can see I've got quite a big gap to Jay here. I get on the brakes at my normal braking spot, and it just seems to be a lot better than Jay, and I end up passing him off the track. So what I end up doing here is just coming out and letting Jay back pass. I got a massive penalty for that, so I'm just trying to get rid of it all as quick as possible, because I'm finding the ghosting cars is causing an effect with the racing. So I've lost the position there to White Shark. We'll see here. Yeah, I was on the brakes and I just don't know what happened. I made the corner, but I didn't expect Jay's car to stop that quickly. So yeah, backed out, was fourth, made it up to third, but as you can see, we're backed out and we lost position there to White Shark, and it looks like we're even going to still lose more positions. So you can see here Moley coming up in the McLaren, and that's going to drop us all the way back down to 6th place by the looks of it. Yeah, losing out to Moley down the last straight of the Mulsanne straight, and we're down to 6th. So brake into the tight corner. We do catch up Molly a little bit under the brakes, so we'll have a quick check of how this feels line up. So Rick's still ahead and making a nice gap there. Rusty second, Jay third, and White Shark catching up in fourth. Fifth, you got Molly, closely followed by myself. I think at this point I'm right in his slipstream and trying to line up a pass in. Seventh, we've got Gold 45, being caught by Angus. Angus right on the slipstream tails of that TT. Ninth, Busby Boy with Big Wall really starting to apply the pressure to the behind. A lot of pressure there. Busby Boy actually going well wide. Where's he gone? Looks like it may even have some mechanical issues there. No, it's still going. It's still going. So it looks maybe like a mistake going into the hard braking there. So jumping back to the front, we've now got a three-way fight again for the lead. We've got Rick, Jay and Rusty. Great showing here by Jay. Maybe a little bit aggressive, but he's still doing quite well up there in second in that TT. Going into the Porsche curves, and we've still got Rick just ahead, although the TT is looking for a place, but there's no way through. And this is all holding up all three of these drivers. White Shark must be licking his gnashers right now, as you can see these guys fighting, and they're just dropping back into him. Jay compromised in the last corner of the Porsche curbs there and actually loses out a lot of speed to Rick. Rick's now starting to pull away, and look at that. White Shark now is within striking distance of these two drivers ahead, striking distance of second. Going into the final chicanes here, got Jay followed by Rusty and then White Shark. As we exit the corners, the TT should be good on the exits here. Looks like Rusty's under pressure from White Shark. White Shark pulls out. Can he put past Rusty down into the first chicane? What we're going to do is have a quick instant replay as I get past Molly on the, I believe, the exit of the Porsche curves going into the chicanes. So getting a better exit there. You can hear the Ferrari V8 screaming, and it looks like we create and manage the pass before we get to the chicanes. Braking hard there, and then we're into chicanes. So let's go back to the fight ahead. Looks like White Shark just doesn't quite have the top speed there to take on Rusty there. You can see though, look at Rick way out ahead. He's making a nice gap there. Down into the first chicane. Good lines by both drivers. It looks like Rusty gets a little bit of oversteer but manages to collect it all together. White Shark, these guys are pretty much equal spaced out, so maybe they're going to quite close up down the Mulsanne straight as they all start slipstreaming each other. White Shark running a little bit wide there and actually losing quite a lot of space, and that's going to be crucial going on to the Mulsanne straight, because he's not going to be attacked from behind, but he's not going to have the performance on. Although it looks like Jay's serving a penalty as he enters onto the Mulsanne straight. Now that's dropped him down 2 places, but that is definitely going to help Rick, and it looks like I might also get him. And it looks like, yeah, we managed to get past Jay as well, so he loses 3 places there, and that does help Rick though. Rick's going to have a nice gap and nobody that can slipstream him currently. Molly really starting to catch up, and he's going to be starting to attack Jay now. So can he take 5th from Jay in the Risley TT? So on board, braking for the first chicane. Molly really catching up a lot there, but there is contact and quite a lot of bumping and grinding there, guys. But it looks like everybody's come out in the same positions that they were before. Maybe Molly attacking a bit too much, maybe Jay closing the door a little bit too late. But Molly in the McLaren, in the slipstream of the TT, pulls out, goes to the outside for the second chicane. And they're alongside each other. Who's going to win in the braking here? Molly's slightly on the dirty side of the track though. Braking hard, Jay brakes at first, and Molly manages to complete the pass before he gets to the midpoint of the chicane there. Maybe a bit of lag there, or don't know what quite happened there. It's always hard to say in the replays because sometimes the position in the card, as you can see, is a little bit jumping all over the place. And now, is Jay going to come back on Molly? Looks like that TT is giving good power. Molly there cut him off though. Needs to give him a bit more space though. Guys got to give each other racing room here. Looks like Jay's just inching ahead, breaking into the hard right hand corner. Looks like it's fairly even, but Molly's got the inside and gets a good exit. Further down we've got Jay now starting to pull out and get that slipstream after that tight corner. Sorry, I can never remember some of the names of Le Mans. I will research it and I'll find it out. Jay actually gets past before the braking zone. Moley now looks to the inside, does he? No, he's going to back off and try and fight again another day. Hard braking there. Jay runs a little bit wide, but so does Moley. And now we're going to the tight right hand corner up here. Moley actually on the dirty side of the track and actually bumps Jay and managed to make a pass. Is that a bump and run? Is that a legal move? Now of course we don't know if the lag's affecting it here, so let's have a quick rundown. Rick still leading this, been doing very well all through the race. Rusty second, White Shark third, myself fourth in the Ferrari. Fifth, we've got Moley now after that pass on Jay, who's dropped down to sixth. Seventh, we've got Angus pretty much in no man's land. He's not got any pressure behind him either. And we've got Gold 45 in the Audi TT in 8th, and Big Wall has passed Busby by the looks of it and now starting to make progress back through the field. Looks like Busby has good pace, but again keeps on making those mistakes. So as we start another lap, I believe we've only got 1 or 2 laps left of this race. We can see White Shark has to serve a penalty along the start-finish straight, thus handing third to myself. And as he picks up the pace, it looks like Moley may be able to attack. Let's find out. White Shark's got to pick up the pace. Moley there with Jay right behind him. Looks like though Moley might be serving a penalty himself as well. So yes, after all that hard work to get past Jay, he has to serve a penalty. Maybe that's a penalty for the bump and run that we saw only earlier. But these two have been fighting at it. Can they apply the pressure to White Shark? Can White Shark catch up to the front three? That's going to be an interesting story for this race. So coming out onto the Mulsanne straight, it looks like Moley's going to have a good old tow from that Audi TT ahead. But we know that McLaren isn't maybe the fastest in a straight line, although he does get a good exit. And it looks like he's already going to start passing Jay in the Rizzler TT. How will Jay react to this? Can he come back? Can he slot back into the slipstream and then remake the pass? So Moley goes to the racing line. Jay's now picking up the slipstream. Moley goes defensive. So breaking into the first chicane. Jay's pulling alongside. It looks like Moley's later on the brakes. Both look like they've got minor penalties to serve at the moment because you've seen that ghosting coming out there. So Jay doesn't manage to pass, but he is going to be right in that slipstream of that McLaren. And look at that power of the TT. Sorry about the lag there, there's not much I can do about that. And it looks like Jay's actually passing Moley down to the second chicane there. The power of this TT is very impressive. That's why it's probably the standout car of the season, and it looks like it's completely passed Moley before the braking point. Moley actually comes through as Jay ghosts. See, that for me, that is the problem with having to serve your penalties on the start-finish straight. It means you're carrying penalties, and your car can ghost when you don't want your car to ghost, allowing people just to just drive straight through you. And of course, when you're on ghost, there can sometimes be that pop, and somebody ends up in the bushes basically. Maybe that's something that the admins need to look at. So going down to the final corner of the Mulsanne straight, Moley tucks back in the slipstream. Can he attack on the braking zones? Looks like Jay has that line covered, so he has to back out. Is he going to be able to get a good exit though? Gets on the power nice and early. Looks like he's got a good exit, going to have a nice slipstream. Now these pair have been fighting like this for now well over a lap, and bear in mind the lap is 4 minutes 14 seconds long, so they've been doing this for nearly 8 minutes solid. Moley's finally starting to catch up in that slipstream. Which way will he go? He's going to the outside, so a bit of an unorthodox way of going around here. Both of them side by side. Who's going to brake first? Looks like Jay has to concede at the corner as Moley is ahead, but Moley's on the dirty side there, and you can see that just on that dirty side of that white line there, his braking performance is very much diminished and goes off. So catching up with the leaders back ahead. So it looks like Rick has some time penalties to serve. So he had a nice lead there, he had to serve them, and that's actually dropped him down to second behind Rusty. And that's actually also allowed me to catch up. At this point, I'm close, but not quite close enough to get a slipstream. Now, what was painstaking down this along Mulsanne Straight was I could see Rick and Rusty slipstreaming each other and pulling away from me, and not getting any closer, unfortunately, because I just quite wasn't in the slipstream of the F-Type. So going on to the Mulsanne Straight, got Rusty ahead in the Corvette, second got Rick in the F-Type. You can see he's firmly in that slipstream. We know that F-Type is fast in a straight line. Pulls out, Rick goes to defensive for this first chicane, but it looks like, yeah, Rick's blasted past Rusty before he's even got to the first chicane. That F-Type is fast. Onto the brakes. Right, Rusty, sorry, can't come back, but he can line up for the next long straight. So let's see how the Corvette does in the slipstream of the F-Type. So remember, if the roles were reversed at this kind of distance, you'll probably see the F-Type almost past Rusty at this point. But you can see the F-Type is fast. Even with the slipstream, the Corvette is struggling to catch up. Now it's firmly in the slipstream, it can start taking advantage. Rusty's pulling out, going alongside. Looks like he's got his nose ahead, going into the second chicane, and completes the move. Really good fair driving from these two here, and you can see how good fair driving, I cannot catch them. I am going as hard as I can, and they are actually pulling out from me because they're slipstreaming together and actually pulling away from me. So going to the very end of the Mulsanne Straight, can Rick come back past the Corvette? It looks like he's got the good speed, using that slipstream and the F-Type power, braking hard for this right hand corner. He's got the inside line, and it looks like he takes the position back from Rusty, although he does run really wide, runs wide and actually comes on and hits Rusty, and that's going to be a telling moment for them both. What we'll do, we'll cut to my view on board. At this point I can see now they've slowed each other up, one by Rick going wide and one by Rusty bumping into the back of Rick. You can see I'm firmly in the slipstream of the F-Type. I can breeze straight past the F-Type, and that's also brought me up into the slipstream of Rusty in the Corvette, and that's the kind of break that I needed to catch those two up. You can see I'm now firmly in the slipstream and getting pulled along. There's not quite enough space to attack into that corner, so I back off, just brake nice and hard down to second gear for this corner here. So now it's Rusty first, myself second, and Rick down to third. I think that's the lowest he's been pretty much all race. Once he hit the front, he's been doing really well. So coming off that tight right-hander, you can see I'm well in the slipstream of Rusty, and my hope is I know I'm fast through the Porsche curbs. I know the Ferrari, being mid-engine, is fast through the Porsche curbs, but if I'm stuck behind Rusty, then I can't make use of that speed. So we're trying to get alongside and just be there so he can't turn in, and we managed to get into the lead going into Porsche curbs. Now, as I said, I knew I was fast through the Porsche curbs, so my idea is look how close I was to that wall there. I am now held to leather. I need to try and make a gap, and what I want to do is by the time we get back onto the straights, I've got a gap which is more than the slipstream gap. So you can see I've pulled out maybe a second gap there to Rusty, so I know I need to still do more, and if I can get to maybe a 1.2, 1.5 second gap, then I know that Rusty can't slipstream me down the long Mulsanne Straight. So through the final chicanes, I'm attacking it as much as possible. You can see there Rusty losing a little bit on the exit there and actually dropping back, and that's giving me the space that I need. So you can see now it's myself first, Rusty second, and third is Rick, who's now going to start applying pressure to Rusty. Fourth is White Shark. He's struggling with that. Everybody else has got a slipstream, so he's struggling to catch up. Fifth is Jay. That's going to be a good result for Jay if he can hold on to that. Molly dropping back in sixth, and you can see Angus now starting to catch Molly in the McLaren. Eighth, we've got Gold 45 and Big Wall. You can see Big Wall's actually caught up right onto the bumper of Gold 45. Remember, he had those gremlins on the first couple of laps, so he's done well to catch up and pass Busby Boy, and then also to catch up Gold 45 and try and put him under pressure. You can see Busby Boy not even in the Porsche curb, so really struggling at this point. There you can see now Rick's actually passed Rusty on the way down to the first chicane, so you can see I've managed to break the toe, and that's also going to hurt Rick now, because Rick's going to have to fight with Rusty, but not quite close enough to be able to get the slipstream from my car. So down into the first chicane, you can hear my V8 howl, that high pitch howl from that flat plane crank of the Ferrari V8. As we go out towards the second set of chicanes, you can see Rusty has quite a lot to make up on Rick there, and that's just going to hurt him because we know that Corvette isn't quite as fast as the F-Type down the start finish down the Moorsauer straight. Sorry. Looking back further down the field, you can see here Big Wall trying to line up the Audi TT going down to the first chicane. He's got a bit of a slipstream, pulls out. He is alongside. How's this going to go down into the first chicane? Who's going to brake latest? Both braking nice and late, but it looks like Big Wall's managed to complete that pass, and that's another person dispatched. So that's really nice to see. He could have gave up because it was quite a way down, and it looks like he's had technical issues like he did in the previous race, but he didn't. He kept on it and caught right back up. So standards how they stand right now: myself in first, Rick in the F-Type, now starting the catch because you can see that F-Type is fast in a straight line. What I'm trying to do is hold on until I can get to the Porsche curbs. Third, Rusty. Fourth, White Shark, kind of starting the catch up. Fifth, Jay. Sixth, Moley, with seventh, Angus. Doesn't look like he's made too many inroads into McLaren. And eighth, Big Wall, followed by ninth, Gold 45, and 10th, Busby Boy. So rejoining the action at the front of the grid. This is in fact the last lap, so I'm pushing hard and trying to make sure I don't make any mistakes here, because this is a long straight again, and I know that F-Type, if it gets a sniff of that Ferrari slipstream, I am done for. But what I'm also thinking is the Porsche curves is like my safe haven. I just need to get to those Porsche curves. If I can get to those Porsche curves, I am safe, because I feel the Ferrari is probably one of the fastest cars through there. So you can see the F-Type did catch up a little bit, but not quite. We're now in those Porsche curbs, and we can take a nice line through here, not take too many risks, because you can easily bounce off one of those walls and get a penalty before the end of the race. Doesn't look like Rusty's quite got the speed to catch up, and White Shark is quite a way back as well. And it looks like it looks like Angus has managed to pass Moley, which is going to be a shame for Moley because he was doing really well early in the race, fighting well up in the grid, and now has dropped down to 7th. Angus, of course, got punted off on the first corner, so his race has been a recovery race. It would have been interesting to see what he could have done without being punted off. So as we ride on board, it looks like the pass has already been done by Angus, but we're going to see if Molly can try and come back and try and attack the BMW M4. So closing up on the brakes, looks like he's a lot stronger than the M4 on the brakes there. Now looking to the inside, he goes to the inside and actually backs off. It looks like it was a good job he did back off, or otherwise Angus would have clean taken off the front end of that car. So looking back further, we've also got a Big Wall almost went round the outside of Gold 45 there, but unfortunately spins out. That's a great shame for him, because as I said, he didn't give up when he had the issue and carried on catching. It looks like Busby Boy is quite way back, so he's not going to change his position. So looking to the front is myself, taking a double win this week, followed home by Rick, who's second, but does have a penalty as he crosses the line, so loses second to Rusty, who then takes second, putting Rick down to third, which is a shame for the guy who's leading pretty much most of the race. Fourth is White Shark, a good recovery. Fifth, Jay, great result there. And sixth for Angus by the looks of it, as he crosses the line in a moment, followed by Moley in the McLaren. I think he'll be a bit gutted, but it was a good race he's had for. Eighth is Gold 45 in the other Petronas TT. And then ninth, we got Big Wall, who had unfortunately those technical difficulties. And finally, bringing up the rear, Busby Boy, having some maybe consistency issues is probably the best thing. So there's a quick rundown of the finishing positions and the gaps, so you can see how that finished. Overall, I'm thrilled with a double win. Unfortunately, because I've missed the first two races of this season, it doesn't look like I can win the championship unless something dramatic happens to White Shark in the next two races this week. But we're going to go to hell to leather and try and win them anyways. So if you enjoyed it, let me know. Drop a like, drop a subscribe if you want, and we'll get some more racing on the channel very soon.